Good morning children. Saira, welcome to this session. We have come to the last part of the lesson number 1, Heredity and Evolution. Now let us see what we will learn today. Okay, first we will learn about Darwin's theory of natural selection. What does it explain? That nature selects only those organisms which are fit to live and the rest will perish. This I already told you. Nature, according to the environment, some organisms will survive, others will perish. Okay, Darwin had published a book titled Origin of Species. He published a book called Origin of Species. While explaining the concept, Darwin says that all the organisms reproduce prolifically. All the organisms compete with each other in life. See, all the organisms reproduce and all compete in life to live a better living. Okay, so in a life threatening manner, all will compete to survive. In this competition, only those organisms sustained will show the modification essential for winning the competition. So those who are capable of surviving will survive, others will not survive. That is his theory, Darwin's theory of natural selection. However, besides this, natural selection also plays important role because nature selects only those organisms which are fit to live and the rest will perish. Sustaining and selected organism can perform reproduction and thereby give rise to the new species with their own specific character. So only which are able to survive can perform reproduction and thereby their species will grow in number. Okay. So what did he explain? Only the nature selects those organisms which are fit to live and the rest will perish. This was Darwin's theory. Now coming, this Darwin's theory was accepted for a long duration, but there were some objectors raised against this theory. It was not followed later on because it was not only the factor, natural selection was not only the factor responsible for evolution. So this is one point. This was not only the factor responsible for evolution. Darwin did not mention any explanation about useful and useless modification. We learn in Lamarckism what is useful and useless modification. So he did not mention anything about useful and useless modifications. And third one, there is no explanation about slow changes and abrupt changes. So these were the objectives. In the exam, if it comes for any 3 marks question or it will come for even any two objectives raised against Darwin's theory, it can come for 1 mark or 2 marks or 3 marks. So it was what's the first point? Natural selection is not only the factor responsible for evolution. Second one, Darwin did not mention any explanation about useful and useless organism modification. And third one, there is no explanation about slow and abrupt changes. So these were the objectives raised against Darwin's theory. Now coming to the next, we will see what is meant by Lamarckism. Lamarckism, John Baptist Lamarck, okay, the name of the scientist was John Baptist Lamarck, proposed that the morphological changes occurring in living organisms are responsible for evolution, and the reason behind those morphological changes is activeness or laziness of that organism. So what did he tell? That morphological, what we learned about morphological changes, that means change in the appearance of the organism occurring in living organism are responsible for evolution, and the reason beside those morphological changes is either activeness or laziness of that organism. Okay, he mentioned about the activities or laziness of that organism. He called this concept as principle of use or disuse of organism. So what is he mentioning? What was his principle? Principle of use or disuse of organisms or organs. Sorry. Example. See the example. See, a giraffe has a long neck because it used to browse on leaves on tall plants by extending their neck for several generations. He is telling why giraffes of this generation have got long neck, because they usually how they get the leaves from the tree, they used to browse on leaves or tall by extending their neck. They extend their neck for several generations. They have extended, and that's why they've got a, even now they've got a long shoulder and long neck. Sorry. Okay, they've got a long neck because they used to browse on leaves or tall plants. When they take the leaves of tall plants, they extend their neck, and that's why even now the giraffes have got a long neck. Then shoulders of ironsmith are strong due to repetitive hammering movements. See, usually we tell the ironsmiths, because what they do, they beat the iron, okay, hammering, they do the hammering movement. That's why their shoulders are strong. Even now, that is not during only the one generation, generation after generation, you think might be it is not looking correct, because their children may not be doing the ironsmith might be doing hammering and his shoulders might be strong. What about the next generation? Okay, only if they do that movement their shoulders will become strong. That characters will not be passed to next generation. Wings of ostrich and emu are weak because they are not used for flying. Is telling they are, because they don't use, there is laziness of the organs. If they are not using for flying, so they are, so that is not used for flying. They are not using their wings, so it has become weak. Legs of birds and swan are used for swimming because they live in water. So these are some of the examples which shows the Lamarckism. He proves by this example. But was this proved? Was this approved? See, these characters are called as acquired characters. That is, characters which we are acquiring in that generation. Okay, which are transferred from one generation to another. He told that these acquired characters of one species can be transferred to the next species. This is called as theory of inheritance of acquired characters or Lamarckism. So what is this? So this is called as theory of inheritance or acquired characters, or it is called as Lamarckism. That is from one generation to generation the characters are carried over. He is explaining that. Okay. Development of this was disapproved. This was disproved by development of organs due to specific activities or their degeneration due to no use at all was widely accepted. This was widely accepted because when we don't use some of the organ, it will slowly start degenerating. We saw in vestigial organs, isn't it? So this was widely accepted, but transfer of those characters from one generation to another generation was rejected. So when we don't use an organ for several generations, that will be degenerated, we learnt in vestigial organ. But will those characters be transferred from one generation to generation? That was rejected because it had been verified many times that modification brought in us are not transferred to the next generation, and thereby Lamarck's theory was disproved. So you see, because it was verified that many times the modification brought in us is not transferred to the next generation, and therefore Lamarck's theory was disapproved. Okay. Now coming to the next, the living organism can transfer the characters which has acquired to the next generation. So he came to the conclusion that the living organism can transfer characters which it has acquired to the next generation. This is called as ancestry of acquired characters. So this is called as ancestry of acquired. Only to the next generation it can be carried over. Now what is meant by speciation? What is speciation? Means formation of new species of plants and animals is the effect of evolution. They are telling speciation means formation of new species of plants and animals. It is due to evolution. That means species is a group of organisms that can produce fertile individuals through natural reproduction. So through natural reproduction, when we produce organisms, that's called as species are formed due to natural reproduction. Each species grows in specific geographical condition. We all know a particular environment, they grow in the particular geographical condition. Genetic variation is responsible for formation of new species from earlier one. Similarly, geographical or reproductive isolation also leads to speciation. That means geographical or reproductive isolation. When we separate one group of organism from one part to the other. Okay, suppose we are leaving some animals in the desert, and the same species we are leaving some of the animals in the other region. Their evolution, due to the surroundings, they will be different. They will not be the new species formed will be different from the other earlier one. Similarly, when geographical barrier, that means suppose you are leaving one, that is geographical barrier. I told you a desert, and if you live in ice. See, when you are, if you want to adapt to the environment, suppose if it is a cold region, they will develop hair. So according to the environment, they will develop their characters, or they will develop their body. Body will accept their nature. Same way, even geographical and reproductive isolation. That means when you are separating some animals from the other, they will not be able to form new generation, because, and that leads to speciation. For this part, I will send a small video in the group. You can see that. Okay, for speciation. Now coming to human evolution. See, the biodiversity that is today known today has been said to be formed from a very simpler unicellular organism due to evolution. Last dinosaur appeared. See, this is the first explanation. Last dinosaur appeared approximately how many crore years ago? About 7 crore years ago. At that time, monkey-like animals are said to be evolved from some ancestors who were more or less similar to modern lemurs. Tail of these monkey-like animals of Africa is said to be disappeared about 4 crore years ago. Okay. So the tail of these monkey-like animals of Africa was disappeared 4 crore years ago. Okay, then we are going to learning about human evolution. This picture last year it was omitted. We don't know if it is there. You just have to go through. This is human evolution. How many crore years, how we were looking, and now the Cro-Magnon man, that is 50,000 years ago, how we have evolved. This is given here. This is all names you have to learn. Only the few names. Ramapithecus and then Neanderthal man. Only those 2-3 names you have to learn. You need not worry about the other names. Okay. They developed due to enlargement in brain. The hands were also improved, and thus ape-like animals were evolved. After that, ape-like animals were evolved. Meanwhile, these ape-like animals reached the South and the Northeast Asia and finally evolved into gibbon and orangutan. The remaining ape-like, some went to South and Northeast Asia. This ape-like animals evolved and they reached the South and North and East Asia, and finally they evolved into, when they reached the other, that is geographical isolation, speciation. So they evolved into gibbon and orangutan. The remaining which remained in South Africa, from them came gorilla and chimpanzee evolved. So due to geographical speciation, some they evolved and became gibbons and orangutan, and the remaining ape-like animals stayed in Africa, and from them gorilla and chimpanzee evolved about 2.5 crore years ago. Okay, evolution of some of the 2 crore year old species of apes seem to be occurred in different way. They had to use their hands more for eating food and other work. So slowly this evolution of man also, I will send a video. You can see how first it was we were using the ancestors, they were using legs and the hands to walk. Then slowly when evolution took place, they started using more of their hands for eating food and other work. Those apes started to live on lands, and as the forest started to decline due to dry environment, their lumbar bones developed in such a way that they started to stand in erect posture in grasslands, and thereby their hands became available for use anytime. So they started to using their hands, they started to become erect. These first human-like animals with erect posture, which were using their hands, have evolved 2 crore years ago. Okay, about 2 crore years ago, they started their human-like animal, started with erect posture, started evolving. First record of human-like animal is with us in the form of Ramapithecus ape. So this this is important. First record of human-like animal is Ramapithecus ape, which was from East Africa. Afterwards, this ape grown up in size and became more intelligent, and thus the ape of South Africa evolved about 40,000 years ago. Then the morphology of these human-like animals started to appear like to be the member of the genus Homo. Okay, about 20 lakh years ago, and the skilled human develops later slowly. Skilled 20 lakh years ago, skilled human developed. After that, we got the name as Homo sapiens. Now we are called as Homo sapiens. Then about 15 lakh years ago, human walking with erect posture was evolved. It may have existed in China and Indonesia of ancient continent. Evolution of upright man continued in the direction of developing its brain for a period of 1 lakh year, and meanwhile it discovered the fire. So slowly the brain also started developing about 1 lakh year ago, and they found out fire. Brain of 50,000 year old man had been sufficiently evolved to be extent that it could have been considered as member of the class wise man, that is Homo sapiens. Okay, you can see the development of brain, how it was before. Now the brain has been developed. This is the picture of that. Okay, the last part. The Neanderthal man can be considered as the first example of wise man. So this can come for the exam. Dash man is considered as the first example of wise man. This Neanderthal man. The Cro-Magnon man evolved about 50,000 years ago, and afterwards this evolution had been faster than the earlier. About 10,000 years ago, wise men started to practice the agriculture. It started to rear the cattle herds and establish the cities. Cultural development took place. So slowly you can see how they started developing. Okay. Then last part is art of writing was invented about 5,000 years ago, and thus the history had been started. After that only history has started. Modern science has emerged about 400 years ago, and industrial society was established about 200 years ago, and now we have reached at this stage, and still we are searching the details of the roots of human ancestry. See, there are people who want to know more about detail of human evolution. There are a lot of YouTube videos. First evolution took place in the sea ocean, and slowly you can see how we have evolved. I'll send you some of the videos in the group. You can watch that. Okay, this lesson is over, children, and revise this in the online session. Okay, thank you, children. Take care. Sai Ram.